Hello and welcome to Odds on Premier League match day 35. Tom Rennie is ready to analyze this new match day. Perhaps, Tom, is not a three-horse race anymore. We can say Liverpool is out of the race after the defeat at the Merseyside derby.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Jurgen Klopp can now go from thinking about his one-year sabbatical to take it now.
Exactly. Why waiting? And he should leave right now. Jurgen Klopp lost in the Europa League quarterfinals and lost also at Goodison Park. So let's analyze all the games we have this weekend. We have really good ones. For instance, North London Derby, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man City, also some tricky games. I hope, guys, you enjoy the video. So press the like, if so, and of course, subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. Well, we had the midweek games, and even on Thursday today we have a game, very good one in the south of England, Brighton, Man City. Tom, a very important one for Man City. They can go toe-to-toe with Arsenal, 1 point less if they win in Brighton. Only two teams had won in this stadium this season. We saw Man City struggling in the FA Cup semi-final. Even they needed the help of the referee to go to the final at Wembley. How do you see this one?
Great game. What a great game to wrap up the midweek fixtures in the Premier League. I think Brighton have really faltered second half of the season. I think we gave them a lot of passes in the first half of the campaign because of the European run and the lack of depth in the squad and the amount of injuries. But really, the second half of the campaign has not been spectacular for Brighton, who with Bournemouth's run of form find themselves 11th in the table with 6 games to go, 4 for others, 6 for them. It's not a deep squad. I don't think Roberto De Zerbi has done an amazing job at Brighton, as some people suggest. Like, he should be the next Liverpool manager. I don't really see why he's in the conversation. Like, they play all right football. They play nice, fast-paced, good-to-watch football. But defensively, they've conceded 50 goals this season. That is not good for anybody. It's a pretty average, maybe just slightly above average amount of concessions this season. They've struggled to convert games into victories this campaign. I don't think it's through lack of offensive will. Maybe it is quality. I don't know, but a pretty indifferent, middling, better than the old days, but not as good as the fanfare suggests season for Brighton. And it's one win in their last 5 as well, since they've been knocked out of Europe. Very, very mid-table, 11 wins, 11 draws, and 10 defeats, and scored about as many as they've conceded. It's almost the definition of mid-table the season Brighton have had. Going into this game, there's still the same old list of players that have been missing for Brighton for some time. There's going to be no Solly March, no Mitoma, no James Milner. I mean, it's time to let James Milner go, I think. Tariq Lamptey's always injured. Evan Ferguson's always injured. I don't know. When De Zerbi goes in the summer, which is looking very likely, it's going to be a really interesting thing to see what happens to them in the future. And look, for Manchester City, they weren't great against Chelsea. Should have lost that game. If Nicholas Jackson knew where the goal was, they'd have lost. In the end, they did win it. They weren't impressive. I don't think anyone is happy with Pep Guardiola whinging about the schedule, considering the reason they play so many games is because they keep buying your best player and have the biggest wage bill in all football. So, cry me a river, as Justin Timberlake famously said. In terms of this game, I wouldn't back Brighton because of the form of the season, really. I don't think it's going to be a particularly inspiring victory. You look at the City away wins across the campaign. They've gone and got the job done multiple times. Looking at the 1-0 at Bournemouth, 3-1 against Brentford, 2-3 against Newcastle. That's the sort of thing I'm looking at here. So go for City win by the odd goal. Nice group bet here of 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. But I think both teams score. City win. If you take that with maybe under 4.5, it's quite conservative, but that brings you in around 2. That's okay.
Well, Man City, they play most of the games away from home until the end of the season. We will analyze Man City again. Is the last game we have at the weekend. Haaland missing this one. He's not scoring a lot of goals lately. Let's jump into the games we have in match day 35. By the way, Tom, Indeed, you nailed your ACCA last week. Was a high ACCA with Arsenal or Aston Villa winning.
Yep, 3-team ACCA came in around 6, which I really like. My safe bet came in. I think 6 of my top bets came in. 2 of my secondary bets came in. And 2 games were a total disaster. That's not too bad.
No, it's very good indeed. It's very good. The opposite of you are overperforming. West Ham or Liverpool are underperforming. I guess when your managers are on holidays, it's not a good idea. We saw it with Klopp, Moyes also, no? We live at the end of the season. We saw it with Xavi Hernandez. We saw it with Thomas Tuchel, even if Bayern Munich is in the Champions League semifinals. I'm not sure about telling people that you are leaving, but still, staying on the bench is a good idea. And well, Liverpool's end of the season has been poor, or is being poor. They are not scoring. They are missing so many chances. Probably this is not Klopp's fault, but well, defeat against Everton, defeat against Crystal Palace, defeat against Atalanta, not looking good in the last month for West Ham. Also, the season is gone. Crystal Palace scored 5 against them, 3 defeats in the last 5 games. This one is a tough one to call, I guess.
Very tough. All scenarios feel possible here. I mean, look, on West Ham, the second half of the season's been very poor. You know, I do think, again, when David Moyes leaves in the summer, which is looking more and more likely, his overall job has been fantastic. But there's been some real weak times, and this is one of them. A great first half against Bayer Leverkusen, sure, but the other kind of 3 quarters of that game, West Ham were outplayed by Bayer Leverkusen. So, and lost the tie. And in the league, the Palace game was always a write-off. We said that last week. We got all of our bets last week. The over, the Eze, all of it came off for us because West Ham have struggled after every European game this season. The squad is not just thin, it's too thin. They have not had enough players to play a 50-game season. It's as simple as that. It was clear as the nose on your face to everyone bar the people that run West Ham United. The players look knackered, and the form has gone. No one's in form for West Ham right now. Lucas Paqueta looks like he's ready to go. West Ham are ready to cash in. Antonio at 34, playing 4 games in 10 days. So poor. You know, just on and on it goes. And defensively, West Ham are awful. You know, this is the big thing about David Moyes. I won't go on too much about this, but David Moyes is a kind of defensive, cautious coach in his setup. And I can accept that. I'm happy with that. You can't concede 63 goals if you've got everyone back behind the ball. And they have been hammered a few times this season. And the weekend just gone was another one of those. The centre-halves have not been good enough. Zuma, Mavropanos especially, Aguirre and Ogbonna, none of them have been good enough this season. Areola's back for this game. That'll make a difference. Without him, I think West Ham will be lower in the table. And the way it's looking, they might not finish in the top half, West Ham, this season. I think it's 4 wins in all competitions this year. It's May next week. Not good enough. For Liverpool, I was working on the game on Wednesday and I went to Fulham on Sunday. And there was a real lack of drive in both games. I know they won against Fulham as we didn't predict. That was one we got wrong last weekend. But it was almost surprising in the way it went. It was almost like a walking match. It was Fulham that surprised me, not so much Liverpool. Defensively, I think Konate is an accident waiting to happen as he keeps on proving. He was bullied by Calvert-Lewin. I think Antonio will fancy himself against Konate this week. I think the midfield looks flat. Mo Salah is bang out of form. I wouldn't be surprised to see him hit the money trail to Saudi Arabia in the summer as well. So, look, Wednesday was a massive disappointment. And the funny thing is, the way Everton played in midweek was almost Moyesian. It was classic. The way they played, it was low block, it was counter-attack, it was big physical striker, it was overwork and outfight your opponent, all of it. So I think this game will be not too dissimilar to that game. I wouldn't fancy Liverpool here. I mean, I don't know about how much West Ham are going to be up for it. That's a variable that we wait to see. But at this moment in time, I quite fancy West Ham to win at 6.4. I might just take that on a punt. I think that's quite nice, West Ham to win. They have beaten, it's worth noting, this season. Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, Manchester United. They've pushed Newcastle close. They pushed a few teams in the top half close. Beaten Brighton, as we mentioned earlier on. They've got a lot of scalps this year, West Ham. So at 6.4, I'd take that. Personally, I fancy the draw at 5.2. Wouldn't be surprised to see this finish 1-1. But with those odds, with this form, I'm not putting any money on Liverpool.
Indeed, both teams to score for Marco Arnaldo's. Liverpool will need to bounce back. Liverpool to win is a bit late already.
Doesn't matter.
To bounce back, as Emmanuel is telling us, Liverpool are finished. What a bad way to end Klopp's era.
Yeah.
In Liverpool. Next game is Fulham Crystal Palace. And here, Tom, I wrote it, highlighted. I love Crystal Palace odds because 3.8 is a new team with Oliver Glasner scoring beautiful goals. The Austrian manager has changed completely the situation in the south of London. And Fulham, you mentioned that they played really poorly against Liverpool. It's 3 defeats in the last 5 games. Their home season especially was very good, but the goal is achieved. So full power back in Palace here?
No, I'm not going to actually.
No.
I'm still going to keep a little bit of faith with Fulham for another week. Look, I still think that at home, despite the 2 recent losses, the body of work has been really, really good. They've scored a decent amount of goals, nearly 2 goals in every game. The average is like 1.9 nearly for Fulham this season. I think Liverpool scored at vital moments in a pretty nothing game last weekend. And I think Marco Silva, judging by his post-match, will be absolutely livid with the way that performance went last week. I don't think he'll accept another one. I think that Rodrigo Muniz is still a man in good form. I think defensively, I'd probably bring Tim Ream back in for Tosin, who I don't think he's particularly up to it. So I'm expecting a response here from Fulham, to be honest. I think that they still fancy themselves as an outside bet for Europe. Certainly a top 10 finish is something they would desperately want for the reputation of the club and the manager. And look, Crystal Palace, really impressed with them. I mentioned this, I think, last week or the week before. If the Premier League gave a most improved player award, like you used to get for your kids' team, Jean-Philippe Mateta will get it. This guy has gone from the control of a trampoline to maybe the best striker right now in the Premier League. And I don't mean that as an exaggeration. I think he's fantastic. His ball control, his link play with those around him, his finishing, as we saw again against Newcastle and we saw against West Ham at the weekend just gone. Fantastic. And he's, 6'5"? He's a giant. So a lot to like about Jean-Philippe Mateta. Elise was rested in midweek. I think he comes back in. Eze in as well. So look, I don't discount Crystal Palace at 3.8. Absolutely. If that's your gut, then go with it. I do think both teams will score in this game. I think it'll be entertaining, and I think there's end-to-end chances here. But I still think that Fulham's home form in the main has been good. I still think that Fulham are a better team than Crystal Palace. I know they're having a bit of a new manager bounce with 3 wins on the spin, but I'm still going to go Fulham here. Both teams to score brings you at 3.75. If you do fancy Palace, just take it straight up.
All right. We see Bon Jovi also going for both teams to score and over 2.5 goals, and some other people are backing Palace, like Tyson or like Mustafa. Even the double chance for Palace also looks very good. The odds are very high for Glasner's team. Next game, wow, this one is good. Man United, Burnley is good because we are seeing plenty of goals in Man United games, not because they are particularly good. 4-2 against Sheffield United. Also that FA Cup semi-final against Coventry, with even Anthony mocking Coventry players. We will never understand Anthony. And Burnley, Tom, they are still hopeful. The 3 points against Sheffield United were key. They are 3 points away from Nottingham Forest, and they have to still play each other. And it's only 1 defeat in the last 7 games. Perhaps they think they can take points from Old Trafford.
Well, I'll tell you in short what's going to happen, and I'll give you some bets. What's going to happen is Man United are going to be useless. They're going to be rubbish. They're going to be slow. They're going to be unwatchable. The home crowd are going to be annoyed. The Twitter Man United crowd are going to be livid, and they're going to win. Because that is the pattern of Man United's season, really. There's nothing impressive about them as a team. What's impressive about them is Bruno Fernandes. That's what's impressive about them. He has been exceptional second half of the season for Manchester United. We saw it again against Sheffield United on Wednesday. Hardest working player on the field, scores tremendous goals. His attitude doesn't make him a captain. His performances make him the Manchester United captain. He is their only, for me, player who's knocking on the door of a world-class player. I think he is one of the top players in the league, one of the top players in Europe. and everyone else is nowhere near his level. And you look at the recent games, that's been the pattern of it. Plenty of goals, but I wouldn't say a great deal of excitement. The funny thing is they score as many as they concede. Man United's goal difference is 1. When you compare that to Arsenal, who are plus 56, it's extraordinary, the difference between these two teams. And again, Man United, massive wage bill, spend a lot on transfers. That's why people expect more. 12 defeats this season, probably should have been more, shouldn't be in 6th. If they qualify for the Conference League, imagine the whinging we've got to put up with next season. But look, if you're going to go Man United, go high scoring, go both teams to score and look at Bruno Fernandes. Briefly on Burnley, valiant attempt to try and stay in the Premier League. And there's a possibility they might catch Nottingham Forest, who are doing whatever they can to seemingly get themselves relegated this season. I'm not sure you can blame the officials for having 26 points and only 7 wins this season. That's the key problem. If it wasn't for points deductions, Everton would be long safe, and it would just be Forest and Luton and Burnley in that battle for avoiding 18th and 19th and get to 17th. So a lot to like about them in recent weeks. Scoring goals, found a pattern, found a rhythm. A few players in decent form as well. I love Fofana up front. I think he's really, really good. Odebear's been playing really well. 1 or 2 others I like. Assignon looks good. I think the defence has been better. The goalkeepers have let them down. I think Trafford will probably play as opposed to the guy that's come in to replace him. I get Gurbic and Muric confused. It's Gurbic with Burnley and Muric with Sheffield United, right? Other way around? Anyway, the rubbish keeper with the goatee. Mind you, played well at the weekend, to be fair. Look, I think you go Man United, go both teams to score. That's 2.75 and a Man U win. Over 3.5, as recent pattern has suggested. That brings you at 2.75. And if Man United win, it's because Bruno Fernandes is great. Him to score and United to win, that brings you in a lovely, I had about 5 this morning. Might be higher than that now. Check it out.
This game screams goals for Viper, having also Burnley double chance. Or maybe Man United late goals is happening a lot this season. Both teams to score and Man United win also for Tyson. Let's see if, they are able to win. For sure, their game this season is the FA Cup final. Next game, Newcastle, Sheffield United. Newcastle lost to Palace after scoring 4 against Tottenham. They are scoring plenty of goals and winning the last home games, 3 wins and 2 draws, still with options to play European football next season. And of course, the bookies think they are going to win 1.2. I guess everyone thinks that Newcastle are going to win, and probably a high scoring game. Now is 92 goals conceded. For Sheffield United, they are going to get 100.
Yeah, they're going to get there. Swindon have the record with 100 goals conceded in Premier League history, but there were more teams in the league then. So this is, on goals conceded per game, the worst team defensively in Premier League history. Let's not waste too much time here. Newcastle are going to win. Their home form this season, I think it's 43 goals scored at home, 4 against Tottenham, 4 against West Ham, 3 against Wolves, 2 against Bournemouth. Come on. How many are going to score? That's the only bet here. It's the only thing worth your time. Sheffield United, valiant effort. I'll give them that against Man United in midweek, but they can't stop conceding. In the end, that's what's going to send them down. So Newcastle and over 3.5 goals in this match is a pretty conservative 2.1. I think that's quite nice. That's almost a safe bet for this weekend. And Newcastle and over 4.5 is 3. That's double your money. What I like here is a -4 handicap. I think Newcastle win this. They won 8-0 at Sheffield United early in the season. I think they score at least 5 in this game. I think 5-0, maybe 6-0. Avoid the exact score, even though, sidebar, I didn't get to tell you this last week. I had £5 on Arsenal to beat Chelsea 5-0 at 33-1 in midweek at Emirates Stadium when I was there. So I'm tempted just to do 5-0 again because it came off for me on Tuesday. So I don't know what 5-0 is exactly. Don't have it in front of me, but -4 is 8.5. Snap it up.
All right, this is your game for the Asian handicap. The Magpies were poor against Palace, but at home they are getting the results. There you have 5-0, 25 highest odds. So good money. You put €2 and you get 50. Let's go for more entertaining games. Wolves, Luton Town. Perhaps this one is not exactly entertaining. And Luton, because the other teams are so poor and so bad, they are still with options to get safe, only 1 point away from Forest. And their schedule, I would say, is pretty not easy, but convenient. They have to face Everton, West Ham, Fulham, or Wolves, for instance, only 2 points in the last 6 games. So I guess they will travel there thinking that they can get points.
If it were possible, this is the game I would bet on for both teams to lose. I think apart from Sheffield United, these are the worst 2 teams in the league across the last 5 games. Wolves' form has fallen massively off a cliff. I think that was to be expected, considering the goal of this season was to stay in the league, and they've long since done it. They did well to be in the conversation for European qualification for a while, but that felt a bit pie in the sky for a while. The squad is just far, far too thin. It's still congratulations to Gary O'Neill, Sean Derry, and the team for getting them safe. That it just didn't look likely at the start of the season. So well done to them. But can't score goals, defensively weak. Losing Craig Dawson to injury has been a massive blow. And it went on in midweek against Bournemouth as well. Again, another late VAR call didn't go their way with a Max Gilman goal. Another home loss there. As for Luton, I think it's 4 straight away defeats. They've barely won a game all season away from home. They've been in every game, but find ways to lose. And I think it's going to be a similar story here, frankly. 21 defeats, 75 goals conceded. It's only really Sheffield United masking just how bad Luton have been defensively this season. I have no confidence in either team, so I'm going to go real conservative and real safe. And I've actually found quite a nice little number here. I think Wolves win. You just can't bet on a Luton win. I've barely done it all season. I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to start changing that now. Wolves win an under 2.5 goals. A tight, unsatisfying, but necessary win. Think about the win over Sheffield United for Wolves back in February. The win over Fulham in March. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be drab. I think Wolves will nick it. And 5.5 for the home team to beat a team in the relegation zone is really high. So the form of Wolves might make you some money here.
Okay, over 2.5 goals for Heisenberg. Oh, I like the name Heisenberg, of course. Breaking Bad. Great show.
Never liked it.
Well, Tom, Everton, Brentford, these teams are saved, absolutely safe. They had a great week, especially Everton winning the derby is always exciting. Also beating Forest, a direct rival to avoid relegation. Great job, 3 consecutive home wins without conceding. So another year in the Premier League, unless there are more point deductions. We don't know. Brentford also smashed Luton Town to get safe, Tom.
Yeah, look, both these teams well safe. I actually think Everton, it's funny, I was talking to some Everton fans last night going into the game, and they were so relaxed about the derby because they felt they were safe with the 2 wins they'd previously got. They couldn't see Luton getting 32, and neither can I. So look, Everton is safe with weeks to go. They're turn into prime Barcelona every April has happened again, and they're safe slightly earlier than usual. Fantastic as well, you've got to say. They were so good in the derby against the poor Liverpool and deserved to win it, maybe even by more goals. Really impressed with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 3 goals in his last 4. Great to see him back. It was a classic leap before he scored the 2nd goal against Liverpool. And now they can start thinking about next season earlier than usual. So congratulations to Everton. With the points, without the points deduction even, they'd be safely in mid-table anyway, despite a 2024 slump. In terms of Brentford, I do think there's going to be a big summer overhaul. Of course, Ivan Toney's going to go. He's been hawking himself around for a long time. How much reinvestment they're going to be able to have is going to be interesting. But at the moment, just edging their way to safety with a couple of daring do performances. Aston Villa away, most notable amongst them. How does it go? Well, I think one thing you can bet on is that you're going to be needing to look up rather than down at the ball if you're in Goodison Park for a lot of this game. Expect it to be headers and headers and headers and headers, and eventually someone will try and control it. Corners is a nice bet here. I know I don't normally like corners, but I do like the corner market here. 10 corners for Everton in this match is 13. Just feels like bang on for me. They're going to get down the channels. McNeil's going to win a corner. They'll do it again and again and again. Look above 7, but I like 10 at 13, so take that. I fancy Everton with the recent form. Brentford's away form across the season has not been great. Take Everton win and Calvert-Lewin, who scored 3 and 4 to score any time, 5.5. Nice couple of bets there.
Draw here. The draw is could be a good option with both teams safe, both teams to score. For Tyson, well, we are in April and both teams are safe. This was the goal of the season, so congratulations to both of them for sure. Chelsea have not completed the goals. What a week for them. First, furious for the refereeing in the FA Cup semi-finals for that handball, and then getting thrashed by Arsenal 5-0. Is impossible to trust them. On the other hand, we have Aston Villa very, very close to clinch the fourth spot and going next season to the Champions League alive. In the conference, they are going to play the semi-finals against Olympiacos. Great job for Unai Emery.
Yeah, and Emery as well, it's worth noting, in his career, as you'll know, didn't often qualify for Champions League through the league. He did it through winning the Europa League more often than not in his career. So a great achievement.
With Valencia, he always did it. And then he was sacked. And then Valencia never came back to the Champions League.
But in general, he has made it through the cups, right? Like I think twice for Valencia, but not for Sevilla. And, at Paris Saint-Germain, it was a given. At Arsenal, qualified for the Europa League and got to the Europa League final. So, it's what I'm saying is it's not just a good season for Emery in terms of his career. It's an outstanding season. With his incredible CV, this goes right up there with some of the best seasons he has ever had. And I love Unai Emery, as you know. So I'm so impressed by what he's been able to do. And we spoke at the start of the season how this didn't look like an Emery team. Maybe it does now. Maybe this is an Emery team. Maybe he has sort of developed a Premier League Emery style because they're unbelievable, Villa. Defensively great. Midfield is so strong. Ollie Watkins has been phenomenal. Leon Bailey has gone from bit part player to brilliant. On and on I could go about how much I love what he's done from this season. And maybe later we will. I think they'll win the Conference League as well, as the Premier League team should every year, as I say all the time. And then their form is great. Won the last two. Their home form has been spectacular across the season. A little blip a few weeks ago, but back to unbeaten in three with 2 wins and 1 draw. So I can only see a Villa win here. I mean, look, on Chelsea, I worked on the FA Cup game on Saturday and I went to the game Tuesday as a spectator. And they're just nothing. I think that's the thing. They're just nothing. Like Cole Palmer was missing in midweek. He should be back for this one and they need him because there was a great meme doing the rounds this week. I don't know if you saw it. There's a part of Love Actually, the seminal Christmas movie where Keira Knightley watches a video of herself that Andrew Lincoln has made. And she suddenly notices her wedding video and she says, "Oh, they're all of me." And the caption was Cole Palmer looking back at Chelsea's season highlights. And that's probably right. He has been the only bright spot. Nothing else has worked. The defense is poor. The keeper's not so good. The midfield doesn't work. The attack doesn't work. Nicholas Jackson could knock snow off a rope. He doesn't know where the goal is. On and on. The issues are, and I think Maurizio Pochettino could improve maybe 2 or 3 players. I don't think he can improve 11 at the same time. And that's the problem with Chelsea. There's no team there. And you saw that against Arsenal in midweek. I mean, when the second goal went in, you could physically, visibly see the players' heads dropping. Madueke spent the next 10 minutes looking at his shoes and then he got subbed off. So, look, no faith in Chelsea. Maybe they pull off a stunner. Maybe Cole Palmer has another of his outstanding carry this team games. Sure. Not something I'm going to put my money on. Villa win and Watkins to score, 3.5. Ollie Watkins chasing down the golden boot, and I think he may well get it, certainly with Erling Haaland's form. Aston Villa with a -1 handicap brings you in at 4. I was really surprised by that. I wouldn't be amazed to see Villa win this by 2 or 3 goals to nil. A -2 handicap brings you in at 9. It's a 3-0 win. I actually think that's really, really good. That's dropped down a little bit, as I can see this morning, but I think you still might be able to find a good number for that somewhere on Oddspedia heading towards the game on Saturday, especially when the teams come out as well. There might be a flutter on Chelsea if Cole Palmer's in the team. So a late bet on Villa with a -2 handicap, I think that's a steal.
Well, the fight over the penalty didn't look good. Martin is absolutely right. Let's see if Cole Palmer at least can become the new top scorer of the Premier League for sure. Someone who bet on him at the beginning of the season would get a lot of money with Cole Palmer as a top scorer of the Premier League. Well, let's analyze the 3 games we have on Sunday. First one is Bournemouth Brighton. Since Brighton is playing on Thursday against Man City, they have to play this game on Sunday, and I can understand why Bournemouth are favorites. Away from home, Brighton are far from good. Bournemouth beat Wolves 1-0, but there is absolutely nothing on stake here, so it's complicated to bet on this game.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a run of wins could get Bournemouth European football. That's something they are really thinking about at the Vitality, and they've been so good at times this season. Bournemouth, they really, really have. And at this stage, at home, I think it's 3 wins and 2 draws in the last 5 across all home and away games. They've won 2 of the last 5, 12 wins across the season, 45 points. It's doable if they win all the games that are left. And the way they've played at times this season, I don't know if I would bet against them. In terms of Brighton, again, we don't know how they got on as we record this on Thursday, but I imagine more injuries, tired legs. They've struggled on the Thursday, Sunday flex all season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that again, so I wouldn't touch Brighton here. Bournemouth win at 2.3 on its own is quite nice. I mentioned the form, how good they've been at home this season. Even the draw against Man U recently should have won that comfortably. And as I've done for a few weeks now, it's come in so many times. I'm going to do it again. Solanke and Bournemouth. He scores any time and Bournemouth win. Double your money, 3.25. He is so good. He has taken Bournemouth to a different level, scoring 17 this season of the 49 they have scored. So I fancy Bournemouth here. Double up with the goal scorer. You double your money.
All right, Mustafa is going for the draw. Half-time, full-time draw. I can understand why Bournemouth are favorites. I won't touch Brighton as well. And the great game this weekend. Well, we have 2 more games. The title race, the North London Derby, Tottenham, Arsenal. Arsenal really strong. A great reaction after the knockout in the Champions League, beating Wolves, smashing Chelsea away from home. They've been brilliant this season, and they have 2 really tough games until the end of the season. One is this one at the Tottenham Hotspur ground, and another one at Old Trafford, although I'm not sure if Old Trafford is difficult anymore. And Tottenham, Tom, they've been brilliant at home this season. For instance, for 8 wins in the last 9 games. Still want to play Champions League. I guess they want to screw their neighbors' title race. So this is a great game.
Yeah, tough to predict as well, I think. This is the only game for me in Arsenal's games that are left they might lose. It's the only one of any doubt for me. I've seen them a few times recently. I saw them on Tuesday. They're in imperious form. They look fantastic. They deserve to be champions, frankly. But this is the one. Look, Tottenham are really interesting. They aren't going to make the Champions League, I don't think. They won't overturn the 6-point differential and be able to win further games than Villa have or will between now and the end of the season. So I think that's gone. And I think because of the failure of the European teams in Europe, 5th is not going to be good enough. And so it's going to be Europa League football for Tottenham. Still an achievement considering Harry Kane went in the summer and we thought it'd be doom and gloom, relegation battle, and they've been nowhere near it. And at times, if not in the title race, they've been top. They've been in the conversation at least. And that's very commendable for Ange Postecoglou. But they have been found out a bit in recent times. 2 losses in their last 5, 8 defeats across the season, conceding about 1.6 goals a game. It's not a great average. Defensively, they have been weak at moments. And the high line thing, you've got to every now and then change it, I think, in this league and be a bit more pragmatic. You see that at times with Unai Emery. You see it at times with Mikel Arteta. You don't see it with Ange Postecoglou. He's got a zeal for the way he plays, and that's great until you start losing. And I think trying to play philosophically against Arsenal is going to get you caught out. I do fancy them to score in this game. I think there's every chance they're able to find at least one against Arsenal, which has not been easily done. James Maddison, incredibly creative. Heung-min Son, one of the best players in the league. I think Brennan Johnson's come into really good form. Good to see Rodrigo Bentancur fit in recent weeks. Hopefully he's going to be fit for this one. You never quite know until you get to kick off if he's going to be available. So a lot of positives around Tottenham, but maybe I'm just convinced because I was there and I got to watch them. But I thought Arsenal was so good against Chelsea. Just so good. The defense, Saliba and Gabriel, they're streetwise, but also aggressive, make the right decisions. Some doubts about the fullback, sure, but I thought Tomiyasu and Ben White were good. Partey being back with Declan Rice and Ødegaard, that's a good balance in midfield. Partey is a different player to Jorginho, but gets Kai Havertz back up front where he should be. He scored a couple of goals in midweek. And in Trossard and in Saka, they've got 2 very informed players on the wing. So, look, I can't pick Arsenal to lose a game because they've barely lost a game all season, right? And in the form they're currently in, I just don't think that's a wise decision. I know Tottenham will be desperate to win this game. Absolutely desperate to stop Arsenal being champions. And we saw the chance on Wednesday. You lost the league at Goodison Park from the Everton fans. You lost the league at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but they would absolutely enjoy singing it anyway. So I can see it, but I'm not going to bet on it. I'm going to take an Arsenal win and take the under on this game. A lot of times this season, the under has come in for Arsenal. If you go under 3.5, that would bring you the victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers. It would bring you a few victories at the start of the season. I know they had some thrashings in the second half of the campaign, but I'd look at first half of the season wins for Arsenal here. Under 3.5 is double your money. First group bet of the day, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. I think it's going to be quite an aggressive matchup and a tight matchup. So I like that at 3.75. I'll tell you what's come off a lot for me this year is Arsenal to win to 0. It came off again in midweek so many times. It's been difficult to score against Arsenal. If they score first, very tough to break down. That brings you at 4. And the other thing you should do, as you should do for the Merseyside derby as well every year, though it didn't happen this year, look for the red card market. A red card in this game. North London derby, I think it's the second most common game in Premier League history for red cards after the aforementioned Merseyside derby. Look at that as well. Pick a player if you like for a bit of fun. Nice little prop bet there. But I can see it happening.
Well, Arsenal, they are the best away team this season. Tottenham 4 defeats playing at home. Very interesting week. Let's see if Man City drop points on Thursday against Brighton. If so, Arsenal winning here is half title. But if Man City win both away games and Arsenal drop points here is also half title for the citizens. Man City playing again the late kickoff on Sunday against Nottingham Forest. I guess everyone expects Man City to win, but Forest, they are fighting for their lives, only 1 point away from Luton Town. It's only 1 win in the last 9 Premier League games, but I guess it's more complicated when you are facing a team that is fighting for their lives than facing a middle table team.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a horrible game for Forest. They could have really done with a winnable home game here, and at home they've shown some tremendous fight in some games. The game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, the win against West Ham. There's been moments at the City Ground this season where they've really harnessed the incredible atmosphere they're able to put on, and they just got to win a couple of games. It's as simple as that now. Football sometimes a very basic thing. They need to win 2 of what's left, to my calculations, to stay in the Premier League. So a win here, I think, almost guarantees them safety because they will beat one of the other teams. Love Morgan Gibbs-White. Think they're really good offensively. Defensively, they're a poor team. They're not a good team defensively. I don't think, all this talk about Murillo, the centre-half, going to a top club, Champions League club, whatever. Good footballer, can't defend. None of the goalkeepers that have tried this season have been any good. They seem to bring in another one worse than the last. And I think midfield defensively is not particularly good as well. It's all good to have Ryan Yates kicking people for 90 minutes, but if he keeps giving fouls away and the opposition are dangerous from them, then what was the point of that? So we did City earlier on, so I won't bang on too much about them, but I expect them to win. And the difference between this and the Brighton game at the weekend is that I think that, or in midweek, that I think they're going to score a few goals. I actually think they'll score a few here because Forest are pretty poor defensively. 60 goals conceded, nearly 2 in every game on average is not good. I think it's the 5th worst defense in the record, just slightly better than West Ham, but worse than the bottom 3, slightly worse than West Ham. Look, I think that they win City. I'd look for a group bet here, but I go the upper side of the group bet options. 3-0, 3-1, 3-2 brings you at 4.5. I think there's going to be plenty of goals in this game. If you want to go conservative, look at the -1 handicap, which is 2 for City. Go for the -2 handicap. That's a 3-0 win. That's a double your money. Quite low for City, actually, just to Asian handicap 2.5. But look, City win this game, and I think that they'll win it reasonably comfortably.
Well, Tom is defending that Man City are going to win the title, so they have to win here. City is a handicap -1.5, for instance, for Mili. Mustafa is also going for halftime draw, in this case, full-time. Man City win. Man City, again, playing most of the games away from home until the end of the season. They have 2 home games. Tom, let's go with your safe bet.
Safe bet is Manchester City to win at Nottingham Forest because they're away from home and they're playing on Thursday. It's slightly higher than it usually is at 1.43. So that will fit nice into an ACCA.
And the ACCA?
3 teams again for me this week after victory last week. It's a pretty conservative trio this week, I think. Man City win against Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa to beat Chelsea at home, and Newcastle to beat Sheffield United. 2 big favourite home wins, and City the other at 4.2. It's going to come in.
Another masterclass from Tom Rennie about the Premier League. Thanks everyone for watching. Just show us some support if you want. And see you next week. Bye-bye.